I'm Luke Jukes. I'm 32 years old. I absolutely love dance and developing a dance culture in my home area. And yeah, I happen to be legally blind.
Changing Lanes, Luke Jukes' story.
Life before my accident. I grew up as a very outdoors active person, skiing, snowboarding, summer activities, kayaking, canoeing, running.
My name's Atira Jukes, and I am Luke's older sister, his big little sister, as he got bigger than me at a young age. Luke, as a young child, was very imaginative. I remember many mornings as a kid, him driving me insane because he'd wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and start singing to his Lego. He was outdoorsy and active. He did some pretty major trips. I think that's where his passion for the outdoors really started to develop.
I would say I was extremely energetic. I was into anything I could get my hands on, really. I had a motto of do everything at least once. I pushed myself a lot. I would run up mountains instead of walk on trails. I kind of thought of myself as a goat. I would just go up almost anything. I went traveling for 3 years, Australia, New Zealand, Thailand. I started scuba diving on my second trip to Australia, and I fell in love with it. I saw a humongous manta ray my first time diving, got to swim next to sharks. Yeah, it was mesmerizing. It was peaceful, and it was as close to I could be as an astronaut in this world.
Luke's accident was terrifying. I didn't think I was gonna have a little brother after that.
I was commuting from Oyama to Vernon to work in a hospital job doing electrical, and I went around a corner, sun's in my face, and there was a logging truck that was parked with a blown front tire, and I went right into the back of it. One of the lower logs of the logging truck went right through the windshield and found my face. And after that, I really don't know.
My name is Dale Jukes, and I am Luke's father and have been his principal caregiver for most of his life. He is very lucky to be alive. He was quite a mess when I got to the point of seeing him. His head was swollen about the size of a basketball. We didn't know until he came out of the coma that he was blind in one eye, and the other eye was his bad eye. The one that had already suffered the detached retina was the eye that didn't get damaged.
He now has, I believe it's 17 plates and 72 titanium screws in his head. They had to piece it back together. I remember seeing the x-ray, and it was like a spider web. It was like when you see a broken window and all the spider webs out from it.
At the point of the accident, he had dreadlocks that came down to his waist, and when we saw him, he was shaved, and none of that was there. So, it's one way to get him to shave, cut his hair. It's a hard way, but yeah, it worked well.
So the aftermath of the accident, my right eye was 100% blind, and I could read maybe a foot in front of me, and everything else was blurry. My whole thing was trying to get back to a life worth living. I decided to be more independent again in the scenario of get back to some of the things I used to do. And my job opportunity at that time was to work for the same company that I was working for previous, and that moved me to Vancouver.
Luke's love for water really manifested when he discovered a friend of mine who made kayaks. I have a canoe, and when he was young, I had him in the canoe. I used to take trips down the Columbia River. So he grew up with that canoe in the water always. And so when he had a chance to get the kayak, that's when his independent desire to be in the water really took control. So when he came out of the hospital, he had all the gear, and he had the kayak. So
I was fascinated by the ocean. I loved it. And so I started on a kayak trip 2013. I had charts going all the way up into the North Islands, up to Haida Gwaii, and I really had no idea where I was going to be going.
When Luke decided to go on the kayak trip, I realized that for him it was a breakthrough moment. It was a moment for him to discover his capacity to be who he would choose to be. It was putting himself to the test and saying, yes, I've been through this accident, I've lost a lot of my vision, I've lost abilities, but I need to prove to myself that I can still be the me I would want to be in this life.
I was camping in a hammock every night on some random island overlooking the ocean. And it was just beautiful.
And when he came back and shared his stories, I was very grateful. They'll live with him for the rest of his life. That was his last time where he could actually see and really appreciate things like a killer whale breaching on the water within 10 meters of his kayak. He's had the opportunity to see, so that was huge for him.
We'll be right back with Changing Lanes. We now return to Changing Lanes.
When I moved back to Kelowna, I was working in the electrical field for about 6 years. In 2018, I was a week before finishing my journeyman's ticket in electrical. I ended up having, or what I noticed was a pinhole of blind vision in my left eye. I recognized right away what it was, and I knew it wasn't good. I went in to see an ophthalmologist the following day and was diagnosed that it was a retinal tear that was starting. I was put into emergency to see a retinal specialist, and within 3 days I was in for surgery. I had 7 surgeries. But after each surgery, it was always a waiting game. I never really knew what kind of vision I was going to have. They would put gas in my eye and slowly let that heal. And that gas would dissipate, and while the gas was dissipating, my retina would tear again. And this process went on 3 times. And at the end of the year, I had lost hope. I noticed my vision deteriorating quite quickly. I was pushing my niece on a swing, visiting my sister. And I remember walking back from the park, and my vision was noticeably worse. And it was probably the scariest moment of my life, because I wasn't ready to lose my vision.
He would have gone for another 10 surgeries if they had said there was a possibility. It wasn't until he had to accept that that was where his vision was. And even then, it's been a lot of challenge for him.
I needed to continue with my life, whether I had better vision or not. I didn't know what I could do as a visually impaired person. So I had to look for it. I had to start finding out where I wanted to go, a possible direction. And so I had to adapt to not driving anymore and it kind of come to terms with being more dependent on other people, which was one of the more challenging things. I learned very quickly that I have a hard time asking for help, and that was one of the biggest things I needed to learn. That right there was the acceptance of this is my life now, and I just have to move forward.
I've made an agreement with myself that I will go and visit Luke at least once a week until he says, I don't need you to be there. It's an opportunity for us to go for walks, play cribbage, do whatever, go for a drive somewhere, see someone, visit someone, do whatever it is that he wants out of that time.
Hello. Hi.
Welcome, come on in.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
How's the drive?
it was good. It was good.
And so I get there, and when we load ourselves into the car and off we go. If we go to Safeway, he uses his cane pretty much all the time because it's like a license. It's almost like the lights on a police car. As soon as he's got his cane out, people will part their path and let us come through. So it makes it a lot easier to navigate. Luke, generally, after going to a store a couple times, he knows where he's going. He knows exactly which aisle he's going to go down, and he does it with his normal sense of enthusiasm and speed, which is often scary for people who see a blind person walking towards them, and they're almost unnerved by the fact that it's like he can see, right? and yet he's always going to where he knows something is. I'm usually his eyes. I'm the one who will be reading the ingredients on the product. But if it's something that he gets regularly, bananas or something like that, he knows where the organic ones are. He just goes and gets them. Organic, 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 organic. Here we go, looking for organic. Luke and I like to go for walks. We do like the bird sanctuary on the lake. I like to take him there. I can describe a lot of the wildlife that was so much a part of his life in the past.
That's the merganser, the white one.
Nope, don't see it.
White and black.
No.
Oh, I just did a little dance in the water.
I don't see anything on the water.
My visits with my dad were mainly to run errands, as it all started. Now it's more to visit. Usually we'll go out for dinner, or he'll come by and we'll play a card game, crib usually. It's fun. It's very not competitive at all. It's all reliant on luck of the cards, really.
He can read the cards good enough, and it's just a great way to spend some time, be together, and know that we have that time together.
I mean, he pegs the crib board. I can't even see the pegs, really. So sometimes it's fun because I have no idea when I'm about to win or when he is. And it's just like, oh, the game's over. Okay, let's play again.
He's lucky I'm such an honest father. I don't steal points from him when he misses.
Well, I'm thankful. Because that says you probably didn't put what you could have in your kitty.
Yeah, great. 15 to 15.
We'll be right back with Changing Lanes. We now return to Changing Lanes.
When I was growing up, I got into playing saxophone, and I absolutely loved it. When I had my accident, I had scar tissue form due to splitting my lip, and it stopped me from being able to play saxophone. Being someone who's always loved music, I didn't want to just sit on the sidelines and listen to it. I wanted to find something more to let me express myself with music. And so I got into dance. West Coast Swing is this dance that you could find the music anywhere. It is the North American culture.
My name is Kristen Roberts. I am Luke's current dance partner. I met Luke roughly 2 years ago. We met through the social dance practices that are being held in our community. We just gradually started to dance more and more together, and usually we were the last people at every practice, so we started to just get to know each other very gradually.
Kristen's my current dance partner. She's been absolutely wonderful in the sense that she is always playing with new things. It always keeps me on my toes, it always keeps me listening, and I love it. This dance style is a slot-based dance. The whole concept is the follow will go through on a straight line and the lead will move out of the way to let her pass or do things in the middle. It is a compression, elasticity style dance. So there's always an away connection or a forward connection in the dance. And it creates the motion, which instead of circular is almost like an elastic band that scrunches up in the middle and then expands as it switches sides. And that's what ends up happening in the dance as things progress into it.
Luke's ability to not see doesn't affect his dancing. I find if I have to help him, it might be getting onto the dance floor if we have to avoid something. But for the most part, I don't notice any difference when we're dancing about him not being able to see at all.
When I lost my vision, I started realizing that there was things that I didn't have to pay attention to as much. I could actually rely on my partner to be the eyes in the dance. And in that scenario, it allowed me to pay more attention to the connection base of the dance, which is what I'm attuned to after losing vision. I can tell what foot they're on and where they are on the dance floor just by handhold connection. And I think that's pretty amazing for a dance that can be extremely improv and you don't always know what's going on. I would say that I'm a better dancer now. I love dancing.
You guys ready to do some dancing?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be great. I'm super excited.
Nice.
I know there's a lot of things that can happen to better my life. And some of those right now I'm focusing on is taking a dance teacher training course, which will progress into me teaching dance.
2, 3, 4, 5,
Better.
6. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you see the difference in just like that rotation at the end? It feels uncomfortable if you're looking that way.
Arun and Alicia, my roommates, I've started teaching them a bit of West Coast swing. I'd say my focus for them is learning specific techniques and showing them how certain connections are different.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, and
When I'm teaching, I start looking towards what I can see, and those things is contrast. So when I'm working and looking at people, I have to look at their actual body shape instead of fine details. And so when I'm looking at things, it's looking at their footwork. It's seeing what they're doing, if they're hitting that right. It's looking at their hand connection with each other. And then I also work at explaining in the partner situation. I'll jump in and show one person, and they can see how it actually feels, and that way they can help their partner. 2, 3, and 4, 5.
my name is Arun Majumdar, and I'm Luke's roommate. The dance teaching is a perfect example of one of Luke's ongoing tasks and accomplishments in terms of the challenges that he faces in life, but also how he turns struggles into avenues of success.
You can definitely look at him.
Spot you
Yeah.
instead, okay.
Okay. I remember Luke used to try to teach me, and he would drop a few pieces of information here and there, but it wouldn't click. But more recently, after he's taking the dance instructing course, it's been a huge change. Me and Alicia, when we were learning this time, was so much smoother. We were picking it up very quickly. He really broke down the steps and didn't overload us with information, and it was very easy to follow along, and we had a blast.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Here, I'll show that to you now then.
Okay.
I would say I'm most proud with my maneuverability. I've become extremely confident getting around, and it got to the point where finding out times of day that is a little bit nicer on the eyes, where I actually feel somewhat comfortable running. I see my future somewhat unknown, but I also have some direction. I absolutely plan on having family. As far as who with, I've realized I'm more of a dependent person now. And in that scenario, I have to be looking for someone that's willing to take that on. I am fully accepting where my vision is today and where I'm going today. We have to find things, the silver linings, the things that we can still do. There's always going to be more struggles. Everything I do to this day after losing vision is harder than it used to be. But overall, it is still possible to do a lot of stuff. The technology is out there that make losing vision today nothing like it would have been 50 years ago. And for me, I'm glad I'm losing vision now over then.
He has proven and is proving to the world that with the right attitude, with a sense of optimism and enthusiasm, we can become the greatness that we would choose to be. There is nobody more positive about Luke's condition and Luke's life than Luke.
I would say anyone with a visual impairment has the capability of really doing whatever they truly want to be doing. We live in an incredible time for visually impaired people. If you haven't done it as a visually impaired person, can you really say you can't do it?
Full step.
Produced by Ascent Films, Inc. Producer, Location Audio, Lucy Bacala. Director, Cinematographer, Editor, Yuri Bacala. Narrator, Mark Phoenix. Original music, Stu Goldberg. Additional music, Luca Stricagnoli. Colorist, Stephen Anturi. Stock video, Pond 5. Special thanks, Sharon Sebo, Hannah Jukes, Annalise Mattis, Alicia Timestra, The Laurel Packing House, Safeway Downtown Kelowna. Integrated Described Video Specialist, Simone Cupid. Content Development Specialist, Sylvie Fiquette. Coordinating Producer, Jennifer Johnson. Director Production, Kara Nye. Director Programming, Brian Perdue. Vice President Content Development and Programming, John Melville. President and CEO, David Arrington. Copyright 2021, Accessible Media Inc.